And we are up and running. It's a beautiful day. Well, it's kind of rainy and overcast day here in Chicago, and we are spanning the globe. How are things looking there in Germany, Barrett?
Well, it's a beautiful sunny day, about 70 degrees, so it's gorgeous here. Spring has fully sprung, and yeah, it's feeling really good. So we were talking about the difference in birds between there and here. One thing that's amazingly prolific are songbirds. Most times you just open a window and you just hear birds chirping almost all the time around here, which is really cool. And yeah, I've just really been enjoying all the beautiful nature here since I got here.
Very nice. And on the south side of Chicago, even though we've got a lot of industry down in this direction, and uh, it is pretty much covered with asphalt, the entire region, except for forest preserves. It always amazes me how at 3:30 in the morning the songbirds start up and they pretty much keep going all day long. So
Nice. Yeah, yeah, it really is a beautiful thing. Yeah.
it is, and they are so nonplussed by human endeavor. I mean, they avoid us as much as they can, but they don't allow us to rule their world. They still are expressing their joy in their own personal way.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the symbol of bird has been really a big one for me just on this whole Germany journey, like feeling of spreading my wings and flying here and feeling lifted by the uplift of the wind and the air. So it's definitely something I've been connecting with a lot is that energy of birds.
Very cool. And I'm sure that you'll be developing some poetic themes around that over the next couple of months. That should be a source of inspiration for some of your writing.
It's true. That's true. Yeah, I've been focusing in on the book that I'm working on, which is my third book. It's in the editing phase now. It's called Forgiving All My Lives, and it's really a sharing of all the different healings that I've experienced in connection to A Course in Miracles, but also just a connection of all the different past life memories that I've had and things that have come through. I I've kind of throughout my healing journey just opened up into lifetime after lifetime as a way to release the issues around it and come into the truth. And it definitely really got profound as I worked with both the course and these memories. So the subtitle of the book is Clearing Karma with A Course in Miracles. And so I also talk a lot about the principles of the course and how we can use that in our lives. So yeah, yeah, definitely feeling good about that and excited that it's going to be hopefully coming out fairly soon.
Mm-hmm. Well, that would be good. And it's as we write, we discover that we knew so much that we didn't know that we knew. So it is like everything else in this realm. It is rife with paradox, but when you really get into that flow of writing, you all of a sudden are having this process of awakening that gets accelerated, and you're going, "Oh my God, I didn't know that I knew this."
It
So
remi- it
you,
reminds me of Ken Wapnick's wife, Gloria Wapnick, was also a big teacher of A Course in Miracles, and she described the process of kind of what we're talking about as being thunk by God. It's like when we're in the flow of that divine sharing, it's not really coming from us, it's more coming through us. And it's just a pretty cool experience to have.
yes, it definitely is, and it's validating that we are more than we realize that we are, because that which is coming through us is in fact from us
Mm.
on the highest level of awakened consciousness. There is a seamless existence here that we are living, And there has never been a moment when we were separate and apart from the divine, from God itself in all of its many manifestations.
Yeah, and that ties us right into the section of the course that we're talking about today, which is chapter 27, section 7, the dreamer of the dream. And just even the title of the section is really powerful, right? It's saying that we are the dreamer of the dream. We are not a character in the dream. We're not at the effect of what happens in the dream. We are the dreamer of the dream itself. And the course, as we know, goes into this theme very deeply. And it says that this whole life that we're living is actually a dream life. That this whole world of time and space that we think is the truth is actually nothing more than a hallucination. And our goal is to use this experience that we're having to wake up from this experience, to use this world to wake up to our truth that is completely one with God, that is completely one with love, and it's never been separate in any way. So, he starts off really with some good stuff here. He says, suffering is an emphasis upon all that the world has done to injure you. Right? Here's the world's demented version of salvation clearly shown. So, what we're seeing is we use these worldly experiences as ways to punish ourselves, as ways to prove that we are mortal, to prove that we are vulnerable, to prove that pain is actually true. And we're actually learning to undo this whole ego thought system, which means actually going to the very root and undoing the idea of separation, but also undoing the idea of suffering, undoing the idea that we have ever been in any way lacking or in deficit of any way.
Very true. And it's, once you start trying to unravel all of these different thought systems that have trapped you, that have kept you in this space of strive but don't achieve, and suffer more than joy, and all of these different dynamics are simply simply an idea, and they have no substance, they have no truth, and they have no power. So when you step back and recognize that you're the one who is giving these ideas power, then all of a sudden there is this huge aha moment when you begin to realize, oh, I don't need to do this anymore. This doesn't have to happen this way. And one of the big things that I've found is that the more we get to the point where we're ready to step out of the dream, even momentarily, the more we discover that we have become like an addict to the dream. And so it really, at times, can be very, very difficult, not because it's a wonderful thing or it's a compelling thing or anything else, but just because we have habitually kept ourselves under this suppressed kind of dominance from the ego's agenda. So it really is getting back to the idea that it's not that hard. It actually is very, very easy, but your willingness to accept the ego's dictates is what's going to become a challenge for you.
Yeah, and just like any one of us, who maybe all of us who have had addictions that we've been working on healing and releasing, we know that it's not easy. We know that it takes practice, it takes perseverance, it takes just sticking with it, but that it is also doable. So any addiction is not something that we're destined to do indefinitely. It's just something that we can really heal and shift through and come back into our true way of being. So whether it's something as kind of simple as chewing fingernails, which I did for much of my life, I chewed my fingernails, learning that this is not what I want, and that if I stick with my what I really want, which is to be free of this compulsion, then I can step into a healthier relationship with myself. And this is what we do again and again with our judgment, with our guilt, with our fear, with our desire to blame others or blame ourselves. When we notice that we're doing this, we can see, no, this is actually a choice that I'm making. And I want to choose love instead. I want to choose peace. And this next sentence here in the first paragraph is such a good point, too. He talks about this whole dynamic. He says, this world is like to a dream of punishment, in which the dreamer is unconscious of what brought on the attack against himself. He sees himself attacked unjustly and by something not himself. He is the victim of this something else, a thing outside himself for which he has no reason to be held responsible. And this is what we think happens again and again in our life, right? Someone did this thing to me. Someone said this thing to me. If only they changed what they said or they did, then I would be happy. But this is the lie. This is the lie that the ego has told us, and it never is true. Because on those instances where maybe every now and then we do get what we want, they do say what we think they should say or do what we think they should do. Well, maybe we're happy for a little while, whether it's a minute, whether it's an hour, whether it's a day or a week. But pretty quickly, we almost always come back to something's not right and it's someone else's fault. But the good news about practicing these principles is that we're the ones that are coming back into the driver's seat. We're really not in the back seat with someone else driving the car. We're really sitting in the front seat, pretending that someone else has their hands on the wheel, but they really don't. So this is about, in our mind, realizing once again where we really are, and that we really have the power. And the power is not necessarily to change what happens in our life, although sometimes that can change, but the power is definitely to change what is happening within our mind. We can choose again and again and again that what we want is peace. When we find ourselves out of peace, when we find ourselves angry or upset, we realize this is the red flag. This is the warning that says, I've taken the ego's hand again. And I want to drop the hand, because as soon as I drop the ego's hand, I'm automatically picking up Holy Spirit's hand. I'm automatically walking with Jesus again. And again, this is what we want to do in every upset, every situation that comes our way.
That is definitely a fact. And, as we travel down here to paragraph 3, it says, the reasoning by which the world is made, on which it rests, by which it is maintained, is simply this: you are the cause of what I do. Your presence justifies my wrath, and you exist and think apart from me. While you attack, I must be innocent, and what I suffer from is your attack. And one of the things that the Course, on numerous occasions, points out to us is that when we feel anger, and a lot of times, I think this is true with everybody, a lot of times we'll feel anger over something that we can't even identify. We just, get up in the morning and we're pissy all day and just angry at everything that happens. And yet the truth is, the underlying source of that anger is the fact that we know that we are deceiving ourselves into being a victim. And so until we can be honest with ourselves about the idea of victimhood, you're going to be dealing with anger over and over and over again. And you may be venting on neighbors or friends or people on the expressway, or just yourself in the mirror. But one of the most important signs that we can recognize when we're failing to be honest about culpability and about who's driving the car is the recognition that anger keeps popping up over and over and over again.
Yeah, and it's a really good point, because whenever we are angry, we are definitely feeling like we're a victim, right? There's someone to blame. There's someone else who's in the wrong. And if again, if only they changed what they did or said or hadn't done what they did or said, then I would be okay. And that's really just not true. No matter how much we might try to convince ourselves, no matter how much we repeat the story again and again or to others, I mean, this is a dynamic we can see in our current world system and our politics, that there are a lot of people that they're really defended in their perspective, in their worldview. And so what do? They repeat it again and again and again. And they repeat it to try to make it feel true to themselves, even if it's not true. And this is just a way of expressing that fear. And that's really what the ego does too. It repeats itself again and again and again, and it tries to make itself true by repeating it. But it just doesn't work, right? Truth is true, and the false is false, and it always is the case. So, then as we undo this, it really starts to reveal the emptiness of the ego. And that's really what Jesus says right here. He says, no one who looks upon this reasoning, the faulty reasoning Chris was just reading, no one who looks upon this reasoning exactly as it is could fail to see it does not follow, and it makes no sense. But while we're in it, he says, yet it seems sensible because it looks as if the world were hurting you. And so it seems as if there is no need to go beyond the obvious in terms of cause. Again, even if someone is yelling in our face and we're feeling upset about that, what Jesus is saying is that the upset is not actually coming from someone yelling at us. The upset is coming from a choice we made within, and then we're projecting it outside of us onto this person who's yelling at us. They are not the source of your upset. Again, it just looks that way. But the deeper upset is where we always want to go. We want to realize that always, 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 if we go to the deepest level of any issue, we're going to find the belief that we are separate from God. That is the core belief of every problem. And the good news is, because that is the core belief, when we realize that that belief is not true, it actually helps us to undo every problem. Every problem is healed the same way. This is why Jesus talks about the Course and forgiveness as being a universal practice, because we apply it to everything in our lives. Whether it's a person driving on the road, whether it's a problem in a relationship, it's a situation at work, problem with money, problem with whatever. We use these principles, we go down to the root, and we see at the very base, there's nothing there. And so everything that was built upon that false foundation just has to crumble. It has to melt away. And this is the practice that we just adopt, and we persist at, and we just keep chipping away at all of this sort of quote unquote mountain of fear that the ego has for us. And then eventually we come to the Holy Spirit's perspective and see that was never a mountain to start with. And maybe it felt like a mountain at the time, but it was just a little anthill, a little pile of dust, and there was nothing to it. But usually it's not till we get through the forgiveness to the other side that we actually have that perspective, and come into that sense of peace around the whole thing.
Yeah, and that really is the quest that we are on, is that quest for peace. And every once in a while, in a meditative state, you'll slide into that place where the peace of God can even access it, and you begin to develop a thirst for it then, because it is a profound experience just to not be agitated all the time. And one of the things that in the political scene right now is very devious and very proficient at, is keeping everybody agitated. And in the past, I thought religion was one of the big cores of that, but now it seems this fusion of religion and politics has turned into a morass.
Mm.
And we really have to look at that and recognize nobody can violate us, nobody can hurt us, nobody can take our rights away, because we have never dwelt outside of God. And God is perfect love. So it becomes a thing where we have to, like you said, Barrett, we have to constantly reinforce that idea that we have to forgive every appearance as it comes up to confront us, because it is a mirage. It is, one of those phenomenon that on a hot day in the desert, you see those palm trees and those beautiful, loving waters calling to you, and you start running across the sands and it starts moving ahead of you. It's like the carrot being dangled in front of the horse. And the insidious thing, though, is that we are the ones who create the mirage, and then we go off in pursuit of it. And forgiveness is a simple and effective and immediate way of resolving it. Because when you stop after going through, a meltdown, and you step back and you actually put forgiveness into motion, within a few minutes, you'll be surprised at how much better all of a sudden your life is unfolding, and how much better you feel about life. So self-torment is a very strong component of the ego's agenda. If we didn't torment ourselves constantly, then we wouldn't be, so rabidly seeking something that doesn't even exist. So it's all a matter of just stepping back and letting go and forgiving the conditions that you thought were real.
Hmm. Yeah, that's so good, so clear. I like that idea of how all the things that the ego is offering us are like a mirage. They're false. They seem to be real. They look like they're substantive, but they're not really. Kind of reminds me of the part of the movie Wizard of Oz, where they get to the great and mighty Oz, and he's bellowing and blasting at them, and he's frightening the bejesus out of the whole group. And then I think it's like little Toto, right? He pulls the curtain back on the man pulling the levers with the machine, and really the Holy Spirit's trying to pull the curtain back for us too, and say, hey, look what's behind here. You're so scared by this scene that's showing up in front of you, but it's not true. It's not true. It's all just smoke and mirrors. The ego has been pulling the levers of this whole thing, um, and there's no real power there. And so, like you say, we get tricked into the mirage. We get tricked by the spectacle of what's happening in the world, and the world can give us some pretty horrific spectacles. Right now we have the burning of the Cathedral of Notre Dame. It's these things are sad and upsetting. And But what we start to see more and more is that our safety doesn't lie in the things of this world. Our safety doesn't lie in the spectacle of what's happening on the screen. We want to look what's behind the curtain and realize, I set all this up because I thought this was going to be a good place to come, because I thought that God was fearful and needed to be hidden from. But that was just a mistake. I don't need to keep believing that. I can come back like the prodigal son returned back to the Father. I can return back to my oneness in heaven and realize nothing really ever happened. We're all still having an amazing party together, and the rest was just a dream. That to kind of tweak the prodigal son story a little bit. The prodigal son, just like Dorothy fell asleep and had a dream of Oz, the prodigal son fell asleep and had a dream that he wandered into a far country. But when he returned, he was just waking up, and he realizing he was home the whole time. And Dorothy did that at the end of the movie too. She realized she'd never actually gone anywhere. It was all just happening in the mind. And that's what we're starting to get, that everything that is happening in our lives is really just a dream that's happening in the mind. And this actually puts us in a position where we are letting go of feeling like a victim of the things that happen here and coming back into our own power. So this is why we just keep practicing this, because it really does give us a payoff. And the payoff is more peace, the payoff is more happiness, the payoff is more joy. And it's really a being done, more and more being done with this idea that I can ever be a victim of anything that happens in my life.
That's exactly true. When you go down to paragraph 10, it says, what could you choose between but life or death, waking or sleeping, peace or war, your dreams or your reality? There is a risk of thinking death is peace, because the world equates the body with the self, which God created. Yet a thing can never be its opposite, and death is opposite to peace, because it is the opposite of life. And life is peace. Awaken and forget all thoughts of death, and you will find you have the peace of God. Yet if the choice is really given you, then you must see the causes of the things you choose between, exactly as they are and where they are. So, this completely dispels any potential for our buying into the idea that, RIP, rest in peace. He's finally out of all the hideous things that he was experiencing. And yet the truth is, you just go from one bad dream to another bad dream to another bad dream. And really the only solution in the midst of all this is to awaken. So one avenue out, and there are no other roads that lead out.
This somehow reminds me of a song that I heard. Gary and Cindy Renard have a music CD out, and they do a great job. A lot of songs they sing are other kind of famous songs, but a couple of the songs are actually songs they wrote. And there's this great part in one of the songs where you're just kind of listening, and there's some Course in Miracles quotes as a part of the song, and it's really good. And then near the end of the song, Cindy says, "Wake up from the dream." Like really, just like all of a sudden, she says it pretty loud. She whispers it, "Wake up from the dream." And I was just like listening to it. I'm like, oh my gosh, right. This is all a dream. I can just wake up. That's what I'm here for. It was like such a helpful reminder because it seemed to kind of like, not be in the flow of the song. Just all of a sudden there it was. So this is our wake up call, right? And if you're hearing this video right now, this is your wake up call. This is what we're here to do. We don't need to stay asleep, and we can use our experiences here as reminders that what we want to do is return to the reality that we never truly have left, but which has kind of gone out of our awareness because we've covered it over with all these veils. But we just don't need to keep buying into them. So
yes, life is like the old children's song, merrily, 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 life is but a dream. So keep rowing that boat, and eventually you'll wake up. That's the whole point. Well, Barrett, I guess next weekend I'm not really doing much of anything because you will be on hiatus and Charlie will be down in Sedona. So we'll see what happens 2 weeks from now. Hopefully all three of us will reconvene and be even more awake.
Yeah, definitely. So if anyone's seeing this and still spontaneously wants to join Charlie for the Course in Miracles healing retreat that he's co-leading, it's next Thursday through Sunday in Sedona, and it's going to be amazing. You can reach out to me and I can either connect you guys. My email is barrett@barretthedin.com. Or you can try to reach out to Charlie directly. His email is csrsales@sbcglobal.net. And yeah, yeah, I'm gonna come back to the States this summer, so I've got a bunch of events planned. If you're looking to do a camping healing retreat, there's one of those. It's going to be in Indiana Dunes State Park with my friend Jason Gremley. That's June 7th through 9th. And then I'm doing leading a whole retreat myself on June 14th through 16th near Green Bay, Wisconsin. It's going to weave in A Course in Miracles and past lives, and just like helping us to let go of all of these things that aren't our truth, but that we sort of have grabbed onto. So, and a whole bunch more things. You can check out all the things that I'm up to at my website, barretthedeen.com, or you can go to my Course in Miracles website, miraclesu.org. That's miracles, then the letter u.org. And as always, Chris's website, themiraclewithin.org, is an excellent, excellent resource for anyone studying the course. It's got a lot of great quotes and readings and resources, or if you're just wanting to learn more about it and you're kind of new, it's a good place to start. So I highly recommend that portal that Chris has put together.
Well, and it's springtime here in the Northern Hemisphere, so all sorts of opportunities for growth and sharing and getting out and enjoying warmer weather after a severe winter.
For sure. It's time to open up, and as we open up our winter jackets, we can practice opening up our hearts too, and stepping more into the warmth of the light of love.
Absolutely. Well, we will be reconnecting in 1 week, or no, actually
2 weeks.
2 weeks, yes.
All right. Sounds good. I look forward to it.
It will be awesome. Bye.
All right.